Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Right, today we are diving deep into the sources covering the Women's Rugby World Cup 2025 semifinals. It was quite the two-day festival of rugby at Ashton Gate, wasn't it?
Absolutely high-octane stuff. Bristol was buzzing.
Yeah, definitely. So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to pull out the biggest takeaways. You know, everything from those massive wins that set up the final.
Those incredible crowd numbers we saw.
Exactly. Before we get to the big one, the final at Allianz Stadium, which, let's be honest, is going to be a sellout.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the sources are all saying the same thing. It's the final everyone wanted. It's going to be contested by, well, the undisputed two best teams on the planet right now.
It really feels like the tournament delivered on that promise of deeper competition this year.
It really did. The semis were proof of that. Redefine the standard, maybe.
Okay, before we get stuck in, just a reminder. If you want this kind of deep analysis, this insight landing with you every week, well, you should subscribe to Rugby Obsession. Hit subscribe now wherever you're listening so you don't miss out. Right, let's unpack the action then. Two massive semifinals, quite different games actually.
Very different.
Let's start with that first one. Canada beating New Zealand, the Black Ferns, 34-19. I mean, that wasn't just a win, was it? That felt bigger.
Oh, much bigger. It was a statement, like you said, it kind of rewrites the pecking order, doesn't it? The sources really highlighted Canada's approach, just relentless pace, power, physicality, right from the first whistle.
Yeah.
And the Black Ferns, they just couldn't seem to, live with it. That whole aura New Zealand usually has. The sources said it was left kind of in a crumpled heap on the touchline. Pretty vivid.
Wow. Okay, so that sort of ominous signal you sometimes feel when the Black Ferns start to come back. It just didn't happen this time.
Nope. Didn't materialize. And the sources point to Canada's tactics, but also their belief. They weren't just hoping. They knew they could do it.
So what specifically did they do tactically?
Well, they really attacked the breakdown aggressively. They didn't seem, scared to challenge New Zealand there, which teams sometimes are.
Right.
They held onto the ball, built phases, put the pressure back on the Ferns' defense again and again. And crucially, when New Zealand did score later on, Canada didn't wobble.
They just reset.
Exactly. Reset and win again. That showed real mental strength.
That sustained pressure, yeah, that's key. Okay, let's shift to the other semi. England getting past France, 35-17. Now, France, they always bring it, don't they? That fight, that physicality.
Oh, absolutely. And they brought, as the sources said, plenty of fight, especially in defense. They made England work really hard.
But England managed it. They sort of soaked it up, weathered the storm, and then hit back, effectively. Those sucker punches, as one source called them.
Yeah, and what the analysis suggests is that this game, this tough test, might actually be really good for England heading into the final.
How so?
Well, they proved they can win ugly, if you like, win an arm wrestle. They were pushed, they had to grind it out defensively, and they still found ways to score. That resilience will be vital.
Good point. They won't just expect to run away with it. And looking at the two finalists, England and Canada, the stats are just, well, phenomenal.
Aren't they? Just combined, 510 points scored between them on the way to the final?
Yeah, and 78 tries.
Yeah.
That's just, wow. That's serious firepower.
It absolutely is. It sets up a final that should be, well, explosive.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit now. The sources also spent a lot of time on standout individuals, the players who really made their mark, especially those Player of the Year nominees.
Yeah, and you have to start with Sophie de Goede for Canada. I mean, what a tournament she's had.
The sources called her a one-woman wrecking ball.
Pretty much. And the stats back it up. Across the tournament, 58 points, 20 conversions in there, 11 offloads, 70 tackles. Just incredible numbers.
Especially for her position.
Exactly. That's the key thing. She plays second row. Traditionally, that's about the scrum, the line out, pushing, lifting.
Right.
But 70 tackles, 11 offloads. She's playing like an extra flanker out there, totally redefining the role.
And in that semifinal against New Zealand, she was immense. What were the numbers? 18 carries, 70 meters made.
A crucial try.
And 20 tackles. Only two players in both semis made more tackles than her.
Yeah.
That's just a huge workload.
It really is. And the context the sources provide makes it even more remarkable.
Injury.
Yeah, she's still in the relatively early stages of coming back from a major ACL injury.
To perform like this, it says a lot about her, obviously, but also about modern recovery and S&C.
True. Athletes can come back so strong now. She's certainly announced her return on the biggest stage.
No question.
Okay, switching camps to England. Megan Jones. Different kind of player, different metrics, but sounds like she was just as vital.
Absolutely vital. The sources called her the shimmering midfield glue, which I quite liked.
Midfield glue explains her role well.
Yeah, especially against France, who could be so disruptive around the ruck and in midfield. Jones was that link. Her job was about organization, communication, holding that defensive line together.
So her stats, like the 13 tackles, 3 turnovers against France, they weren't just numbers, they were interventions at key moments.
Precisely. Stopping France getting momentum near the breakdown, giving England time to reset their structure. She's crucial when they transition from attack to defense under pressure.
And the coach, John Mitchell, called her an inspiration.
He did. Highlighting her leadership, yeah. Not just as a playmaker, but as sort of a defensive rock, too.
Interesting. Okay, let's pull back again. We have to talk about the crowds. Because the atmosphere, even listening or watching from afar at Ashton Gate, seemed incredible.
It really did. It just validates everything else, doesn't it? The standard of play, the growing interest.
Yeah. We sort of expected the final, maybe at Twickenham or Alliance, to sell well, but the semis at Ashton Gate, with its, 25,000 capacity, that was maybe the bigger test.
And it passed with flying colors. Just shy of 50,000 fans across the 2 semifinal days. That's fantastic.
And the overall tournament figures, World Rugby announced 440,000 tickets sold.
Yep, which is apparently 100,000 more than they even hoped for. And get this, 3 times the number sold for the last World Cup in New Zealand just 3 years ago.
Wow. 3 times. That's massive growth.
Huge. It shows the tournament has really captured the imagination over there. And you hear it from the players, too. That quote from Canada's Asia Hogan-Rochester.
Oh, yeah.
She said something like, "These are the moments that you dream of as a kid. Playing in front of crowds like that. It changes things."
Definitely gives the game momentum. Okay, quick pause here. If you're finding this breakdown useful, getting these key insights curated for you, please do subscribe to Rugby Obsession. Seriously, hit that subscribe button now. It helps us keep bringing you this kind of focused analysis. Right, so amazing crowds, validation for the game's growth. But that growth and visibility also brings scrutiny, don't they?
Always.
Which brings us back to New Zealand. The sources are pretty clear. There needs to be a rethink after that loss.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest storyline coming out of the weekend, simply because of who the Black Ferns are or were. It feels like a real turning point.
You mentioned earlier when they scored to close the gap against Canada, there was that flicker of, here we go again.
Exactly, that old ominous signal.
Yeah.
You half expected Canada to, tighten up.
But they didn't. And that belief, as you said, it seemed real. They weren't scared of the black jersey anymore.
No. The sources are suggesting that psychological edge New Zealand held for so long, it's gone. Or at least significantly weakened against top teams like Canada.
So what needs to change then? According to the sources, what's the prescription for the Black Ferns?
Well, it seems to boil down to structure. The gap between their setup and the fully professional, centralized programs in places like England and France, it's showing now.
So more games.
More games, yes.
Yeah.
Both domestically and internationally. They need that consistent exposure to high-level competition to match the conditioning, the tactical sharpness of their rivals.
And you mentioned the domestic side specifically. What's the issue there?
It's about professionalizing properly at home, it seems. The sources were quite specific that the old model, relying on pulling top sevens players back into the 15 squad just before World Cup.
Yeah.
That's described as well in the past. It's just not enough anymore.
Because 7s and 15s are so different.
Fundamentally different games, different demands, different skills. You can't just drop players in weeks before and expect them to integrate seamlessly against teams that have been training 15s year-round in a professional environment.
Right. So the message is, other nations have caught up, professionalized their 15s game, and New Zealand needs to do the same properly.
That seems to be the clear takeaway from the sources, yeah. The landscape has shifted. Adaptation is crucial.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what's the big picture here? This World Cup, RWC 2025, it feels like a landmark event already, doesn't it?
It really does. A massive success story. You see it in the global attention, those huge crowds we talked about.
And you see it in the competitiveness on the pitch. Canada's win wasn't a fluke, it was earned. England's showing they can tough it out. The depth is real now.
Absolutely. Which leads us to a question for you, listening right now, thinking about everything we've discussed. What stands out most to you about the growth of the women's game that these semis really highlighted?
Yeah, good question. Or maybe thinking about New Zealand, what specific changes do you think they need to make to bridge that gap we talked about?
We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts. What's your take on this deep dive?
Let us know, and please make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you're listening. That way, you won't miss our analysis as this tournament and the sport continues to evolve. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.